So hopefully you had a chance to check out Blade Runner 2049 this weekend. I did, and I loved it. It was an amazing movie, and I was very vague in my movie review just because there is so much that happens in this movie, and I'm probably not going to cover all of it in this video, but there's so much that happens that it just... I had to do a spoiler review. I wasn't sure if I was going to at first. I put it on my schedule and I made a thumbnail for it, but I was like, I don't know if I'm going to end up actually doing it. I don't know if there will be enough to really talk about to warrant it. But there definitely was. So let's get into the biggest thing. Rachael, the female lead from the original Blade Runner, was the only replicant who could actually procreate. Like, she was a genetically bioengineered humanoid who could create life. And she had a child with Deckard, Harrison Ford from the first movie. And this is like stuff that happened like right after the ending of the first movie, because it happened like within a couple of years after the first movie. It was before the blackout, which happened in 2022, which was the subject of an animated short film that they released before 2049 came out. But, so yeah, it was somewhere between 2019 and 2022 that this all happened. I believe it was 2021 is what they said in the movie. But either way, she has this child that is, like, part replicant, part human, and it's Deckard's child, and she dies in childbirth, and then Deckard, with the help of this, like, resistance freedom movement group, he goes into hiding to protect the child, and the child is just hidden somewhere, and you don't know who the child is, what's going on. But, like, there are a ton of old replicants that are, like, still around that are part of this movement that helped hide the child, who were there when it was born, including Sapper Morton, played by Dave Bautista, who has a really, really small part in this movie as a living character. Like, he dies very early on in the movie, but he dies for the cause. And so, really, his presence and what he stands for is still very much in the forefront of the movie. So, in a way, his spirit is still there throughout most of the movie, even though his character does die very early on. And I actually really liked his character, because he also got a short film, and I really liked that short film that he was in with his character. And so when he pops up at the beginning of the movie, I was already pretty invested in his character, and it was pretty interesting. And, you know, I really liked how they tied a lot of this stuff into, and a lot of these characters into the first Blade Runner. But, yeah. So Kay finds Deckard hiding out in what's left of Las Vegas. He's living in this casino hotel. Kay finds him, they get into a fight, the infamous behind-the-scenes story where Harrison Ford was threw like 99 fake punches, and then one of them accidentally actually hit Ryan Gosling's face. I don't know if they actually used that take in the movie, but it's just, it popped into my head when I was watching the movie. And they also have kind of I thought it was a funny kind of jab at the fans who are like, is Deckard a replicant? Is he not? Is he? What's up with Deckard? And, because he's got a dog. He has a pet dog in the movie, and Kay asks him, is it real? And he's like, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? I felt like that was kind of meant to be a nod at the whole fan theory that he might be a replicant, he might not. I don't know. I could just be kind of grasping at things or reading too much into what was meant to just be a slightly humorous line. And that's what kind of surprised me, is that this movie is really dark, but there is kind of a bit of humor to it, too. I mean, obviously it's not, like, a funny movie, like, say, a Star Wars movie where there is a lot of humor, and it doesn't really... It never gets, like, really, really dark and serious. Like, don't get me wrong, Star Wars does get pretty dark at times, but it never gets, like, really, really dark to the point where you're not having fun watching the movie anymore. These Blade Runner movies are kind of, like, on the flip side, where it's, like, these are really, really dark movies that are really interesting to watch. I wouldn't call it fun to watch, because I don't think you have fun watching people who are dealing with terrible lives. It's very much like a fictionalized drama. It's a film noir. You really enjoy the story and the characters and stuff, but you recognize that it is not a fun movie, you know? But it has little sprinkles of humor in there. I really liked that. And the biggest thing that surprised me was that K is a replicant. And I don't know why I didn't catch that from the fact that his name is K. That should have tipped me off in the first place that, he doesn't have an actual name. Is he a replicant? But, because what happens is, again, this is in a short film, in, like, 2036, Neander Wallace, Jared Leto's character, he gets the law that bans replicants on Earth repealed, because he creates new replicants that completely obey any order, and they can never, you know, go Blade Runner, to quote Rick and Morty. But yeah, so K is a replicant, as he's programmed to be a member of the police force, and he starts to think while he's doing all this investigative work and all this detective work, he starts to kind of think, am I the child? And then during the movie, you're like, oh, he's the child. He's the child. Okay, now I kind of can see where this movie is going. And that's what I talked about in my spoiler-free review, was that there is a thing that is sort of revealed in the movie, and you spend most of the movie thinking it when it's kind of revealed, and then they go back on it, and it's told that it's not true, and then it's like, okay, well, I kind of feel stupid for being invested in that being the outcome, is that you are made to think that Kay is the child of Deckard and Rachael. And then, when he meets this Replicant Freedom Movement group, the main one is like, I saw the child being born, that girl is important. And he's like, girl, I thought it was a boy. And she was like, no, it was a girl. And so you're like, oh, it's a girl. Okay. It just... I mean, it's a good twist. I wish I didn't... And I guess that is kind of part of what makes it more emotional and stuff, is that you spend the whole time thinking it just like Kay, and then you are disappointed just like Kay. Because he is disappointed when he finds out that he isn't the child. Because he wanted to be the child, and you wanted him to be the child. So I guess, in that sense, it works. I just felt like I kind of wasted my time thinking it. It's a good twist, and it wasn't a problem I had with the movie. It was just a problem I had with my mind. But I guess that is kind of what it was meant to do, so I guess I can't really complain. But, yeah, so by the end of the movie, though, Kay is wounded really badly. He fakes Deckard's death so that he can finally go and meet his daughter. And there's a character that's introduced early into the movie. She is this character. She runs her own. She's part of like this her own type of company, but it's like a subsidiary of Neander Wallace's company. And she designs all the implanted memories that they put into replicants. And by the end of the movie, you find out that she is the child of Rachael and Deckard, and she's like, she has like, I think a weak immune system is what she said, so she's like trapped in this room. She can't leave, or she'll get like very sick. I'm assuming that has to do with the fact that she is part replicant, and so that probably caused some health issues with her, but I did think that was a really good twist, though. Like, they put this character in at the beginning of the movie, and they're just like, oh, this is just the person who makes the memories. And then you never hear from the character again, and then it's like, the child was a girl, and then you're like, oh. And then it kind of clicks in your mind for a second, and you're like, I wonder if it was... And then the movie reveals it to you, and you're like, oh, now it's starting to make sense. Now I get why she is how she is. And I really want to see where this goes. And this is kind of what I was talking about in my spoiler-free reviews. I want to see where these characters go, because the cliffhanger of this movie is that Wallace kidnaps Deckard, tries to figure out where the child is, but he doesn't know. So he decides to send Deckard to off-world, and then Kay rescues him, kills Love, who was Wallace's assistant, and then he gets wounded really badly, but he rescues Deckard, he fakes his death, he takes him to his daughter, and at the end of the movie, Kay lies down on the steps while it's snowing. He's wounded really badly, and he just lays there. And then Deckard walks into the room, and she's like working with her thing, making her memories for the replicants. And then she's like, "I'll be with you in a minute." And then she walks over, and Deckard just puts his hand on the glass. And then credits, and I was like, that was amazing. Because here's how I look at it. It's just like Blade Runner, but on a much more colossal scale. Because with Blade Runner, it ends with a cliffhanger. Depending on which version of the movie you follow, I should have prefaced my statement by saying that. Depending on which version of Blade Runner you follow, because really, the events of this movie could work with any version that you prefer. Like, if you prefer the theatrical cut, which has, like, the voiceover and the happy ending, this movie could still result from that, because it's still... They just drive off together into the sunset. They could still have the child, she dies in childbirth, he goes into hiding, all this stuff would still happen. Or if you go by the final cut, where the happy ending is removed, and it's left a lot more ambiguous what happens, either way it works. But I personally prefer the final cut because it is more ambiguous, and I guess now that this movie has happened, there aren't any blanks you can fill in on your own, but I liked that for the longest time, you could just fill in the blanks on your own, like, oh, maybe this happened, maybe this happened. You could have it any way that you wanted it. And that is exactly what they did with this one, only on a much grander scale, because it's like, with the first one, I guess it was technically a lot more open, because they get in the elevator, they leave, anything could happen then. But this one is just a lot grander, because Kay is lying on the steps, wounded really badly, and Deckard meets his daughter. If they never make a third Blade Runner, which I really hope they do, but what I've heard is that this movie is not doing great at the box office, and I hope that changes, because I want a third Blade Runner, and I don't want them to do it 30 years from now, like this one. Like I don't want the same thing to happen where the first Blade Runner bombed at the box office, and then, like, 15, 20, 25, somewhere in that general area, years later, people were like, oh my god, this movie is amazing. This movie is a classic. Are they going to make another one? Are they going to do another one? And the fan hype around the first movie and the amount of people praising it got to a point where the studio felt comfortable enough to do a sequel, even though the first one bombed. And so they did this one, and I don't want the same thing to happen, because from what it looks like, if more people don't start going out to see this movie, it'll end up just like the first one. It'll bomb, then years later, it will become a cult classic, a bunch of people will fall in love with it, and then eventually it'll get a sequel. I hope that they do end up doing it within the next 5 years at least, not 30. But I mean, it's not guaranteed in this movie climate. Yeah, you can never guarantee a movie's success, even when it looks like it's gonna be great. And I think it was like the most anticipated movie of the fall, so I don't understand why it isn't doing greatly. The critical reviews have been really great. The audience reactions, from everything I've heard, have been really good and positive. I mean, just, if you haven't seen Blade Runner 2049 and you are interested in seeing it, go see it in the theater. Go make sure that this movie makes money so that the story can continue, because if you wait for it to say, like, and I don't condone pirating movies online or illegally downloading, but if you're waiting for it to, so you can, like, illegally download it, then you're gonna watch it, and odds are, if you end up liking the movie, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I really want to see where this franchise goes. But then you already pirated the movie. The movie just skipped out on earning money so that you can guarantee that another one will be made. So if you're interested in the movie, I would highly recommend going to see it in the theater. Just don't go see it at the AMC Classic in Saginaw by the mall, because, yeah, that theater, terrible. Just absolutely terrible. Don't go there. Go to Goodrich, or go to Birch Run. I love Birch Run. The Birch Run Theater is amazing. They got the reclining seats. The tickets are really cheap. The screens are really good. The sound is really good. I'm gonna probably go there for most of the movies that I see in the future, honestly, because that place is just amazing. Anyways, guys, that's it for this spoiler review. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments. I know I probably didn't get everything. I was going to talk about Gaff popping in, but I talked about that in my spoiler-free review. Sorry about that, if anyone considers that a spoiler. I know they announced that Edward James Olmos was going to be in the movie months and months and months ago, so it's not really a spoiler, but either way, thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Blade Runner 2049, and what was your favorite part of the movie. Me, personally, my favorite part was the detective elements with Kay, where he was just kind of trying to unravel the mystery and figure everything out. Even before, like, they brought Harrison Ford in, and that was just kind of, like, the cherry on top, because I really enjoyed the story that the movie told. And then they brought Harrison Ford in for, like, the last third of the movie, and it was just like ice. It was like you made a really good cake, and the cake was amazing, and it was delicious, and it didn't need frosting. It was delicious enough on its own. And then they were like, you know what? Slap some frosting on that delicious, delicious cake. Just because we can. And they tossed the frosting on while there was maybe, like, that much of the cake left. And it just made it better. So, yeah. Check out our Patreon page. we got our videos, our entire videos, like, our entire catalog of videos are demonetized now because our channel is really small and we don't have, like, 10,000 overall views on our channel. So YouTube took away our monetization, so we are not making any money off of any of our videos anymore. Not that I'm in it for the money, I am in it for the fun of making videos, but the money, getting money from it makes it easier to upgrade the equipment and get better stuff to make better videos. So please, I would really appreciate it if we could get some Patreon donations, just because now with AdSense off of our videos now, even though we weren't earning a ton off of that, it's still, it would still be really nice and helpful if we could start getting some people supporting us on Patreon so that we could start getting some new equipment and stuff now that we're demonetized. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.